Yo, yo, yo. What's good? What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back. Welcoming you to Nerds on Culture with Stormybman for this Monday, January 22nd, 2024. And we are back with another Nerds on Culture. This is number 71 in the series of Nerds. And we are focusing this evening on the Spider-Man trilogy. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the Spider-Man films that originated with the Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst. And we're going to talk about these films a little bit and reminisce on how the early shaping of Marvel's cinematic universe with their characters, the impact the films had on us, and how we yearned for more. And even though the films were created the way that they were, there were people behind the scenes who were working toward bringing all of these characters together eventually. And it's like we had no idea what the grand plan would be, but yet and still it was there. But it was something that we could take a look into and like I said, reach back, think on these films, talk about them a little bit, laugh about some stuff, bemoan and groan about some other things that we may have wanted that we didn't get delivered and things of that nature. So, as we get ready to go on into that, allow me to introduce my partner in crime. We got the brother Drew Titan LLC in the building with us this evening. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is I'm doing good, brother. And this trilogy is instrumental in the MCU. Very instrumental. It was like a revamp, but yes.
Yeah, the Spider-Man films, before the first one came out with Tobey Maguire, James Cameron was going to do a Spider-Man film in the late 90s. New Line Cinema was trying to put something together. And this was also during that time when Marvel Comics was going under. And as we've indicated, talking on other shows in the past, the film Blade is what really saved Marvel.
That's right.
Even though it wasn't a part of the cinematic universe, it did save Marvel Comics. Blade was something of lightning being caught in a bottle.
Yes.
And everything kind of springboard off of that once it was able to do its thing. But these films, man, I think some of us, even today, they talk about superhero fatigue. I don't know that there's anything as such cinematically, but I do believe that the producers get a little bored with focusing in on the successful formulas. They think that when they do something successful, because it was successful, you're just going to plop your money down when they come back with something else right away. And that's why a lot of films, part 2 is usually the best of the efforts. Part 3, and if film franchises have gone beyond 3, what happens is they trickle off and they lose sight of what was that captivated the audiences the first go round.
Yeah.
I think one of the film franchises that display that most was probably and the two films are tied for it. Tim Burton's Batman films and Richard Donner's Superman films. Both of those franchises, even though they never had an opportunity to cross over, and become a part of a greater universe, the success of the second films was so strong that producers got to thinking like, okay, well, we can just let's throw this at the wall and see if it's sticky, and that's wrong. And we've seen that even with the latest of films. So when I say about, I don't believe in the superhero fatigue, because how long have comics been around? Comics have been around for almost 100 years, if not more.
Right?
Yeah, and people still will read them. There's still stores you can go and leaf through volumes of the stories and everything. So there's no fatigue when it comes to that. It's just that what happens is, and you can share with me, your audience grows. You'll always have new ones to come along.
Yeah.
But the ones who have been there and have grown and gotten older and everything, you forget to write stories for them and produce the movies for them, because they're adults. Listen, and I know my opening comments is a little long-winded, and I'm gonna let you cook in a moment. I just want to say, like, this, when Spider-Man Trilogy, the first film, when I went to the theater to see it, there was a special midnight screening for a neighborhood film on the north side of the city here in Chicago. Dude, there were no kids in that line.
See that?
Most of the dudes that was in that line were 30 plus.
See that?
Beard, balding, glasses. Those guys were the diehard Spider-Man fans who had boxes of their books in their home, in their storage, in their attic, in their basement. You know what I'm saying? And they were there to see this film. But you go ahead, bro. Say,
listen, how many times you heard me say when we refer to these movies when they re-release them, whether it be Marvel, DC, Transformers, G.I. Joe, you heard me jokingly say, okay, let's see how bad they ruined my childhood. What that means in translation is you already got my money, you got my attention, because this is something I grew up with. And I say it jokingly, but I'm also frightened, because these are things I grew up with. These are things that got me through my childhood. These are things that entertained me. And now you're re-releasing it, and I'm going to support you like I've been doing. Please show me the respect by staying loyal to what I grew up reading or looking at on TV. I don't mind a remake as long as it's good. And the thing with Marvel is that they've gotten away. Actually, it's with all of this stuff. I'm not even going to leave it exclusively to Marvel. I'm not going to do that. They've chased the people with short attention spans. They see more value in the Johnny-come-latelys, which has made them isolate the people that made them popular in the first place. And that's unfair to us. And we are letting them know that we don't appreciate it with our eyes. Everybody has a YouTube channel, and they can get on there whether you have 4 followers or 400,000 followers. You're letting the world know, look, I don't appreciate this. And when they step in and ruin my childhood, I get offended. And the Spider-Man franchise came along at a time where things were just now taking off. As we stated, the Blade franchise saved the MCU. Blade 1 was groundbreaking. Blade 2, I did not think they could do better, but they did. Blade 2 was awesome. And in the midst of that, they released Spider-Man. And you got to understand, family, it was at the time where CGI was getting better. CGI, it wasn't just a man crawling on a wall, but they turned the camera upside down. He's really crawling on the floor. No, they did some amazing stuff with the CGI. And we were hyped to see this. You got to understand, around that time, they were re-releasing or doing over a few things that made you say, oh man, like for instance, around that time, didn't they remake Clash of the Champions? I mean, Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't wait to see what they did with that, man. This is some good stuff.
And I'll tell you something. You mentioned Blade 2.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the scene in Blade's cave when the vampires came in to attack?
Yeah.
And he told them, hit the lights. And they turned the lights out and they came in and they were flipping around through the thing.
Yeah.
And they were in these dark blue, black suits, you know, depending on what the light looked like. The suits were probably supposed to be black, but they looked blue in the silhouette light or whatever. I remember watching that film in the theater and watching that particular scene, because those guys, they were flipping on the rafters and stuff.
Yes.
And Blade started to fight with them. When I saw that, I said, a Spider-Man film is coming.
You see?
Because that's what they looked like. They looked like what Spider-Man would look like doing what they were doing. And sure enough, Spider-Man came within a short period of time, not long after that. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the visual effect artists were working on that, were called in to even like give some pointers or something, you know, when that was made.
These things that we see in these films, it also, what's exciting is that you look at these things, and as a supporter, as a fanatic of these things growing up, I'm sorry, I have a shortness wire. It also, while you're watching the film, you're saying, what if they doing this, they could do this. If they doing this, they can do this. And I remember, I believe it was the second Spider-Man film. That was when we saw, I remember sitting in the theater. I can't remember. It had to be Spider-Man 2. I'm sitting in there, and Eric Bana walks up in the bathroom, and he walks in. He's breathing heavy. I'm like, what's this? And he's looking, and he wipes off the mirror, and it's the Hulk looking back at him. And then it just blacked out, and it said coming next year. We were like, oh, you know, the buildup. I was like, oh man, with all the CGI, they're gonna make a Hulk film. I didn't like the Eric Bana Hulk movie turn, but we was like, damn, we gotta wait a whole year for this. But it was the anticipation. You understand? And I think in those, dare I say, I don't want to say humble beginnings. I want to say midway through, the superhero movies were in touch with its audience. Where you saw more, you look at the audience going to see these films as opposed to looking at them now. It's different.
Well, like I said, that night when the film opened up at that late night showing, there were a bunch of guys my age and older, because I was in that, I had to be in my early 30s when the first Spider-Man film came. I think I was either my very late 20s or early 30s. But what I noticed was who was checking the film out. Now, most of those men who were in line and everything, and with their girlfriends or wives or whatever, right? What I noticed is that they were there, but if they were family men, they had to go see it before the kids. You understand? It was like that kind of thing. And I can totally relate, because they were, you know, but everybody was really pleased at the end of the film. They were celebrating, they were high-fiving. They was like, man, that was awesome. And then the film ended with that classic scene of him web slinging through the city.
Yes.
And then he landed on that flagpole with the American flag. and then he just kind of like swung on into the camera. You know, it's like the way they captured all of that, Drew, it was like worth the wait. This was not the Nicholas Hammond, the Amazing Spider-Man from the CBS TV show in 1978.
Right.
You know, where the guy was swinging on a rope or something and he was like all stiff and everything. This was the real Spider-Man, athletic in the air and swirling and everything. And it was really cool, man. It was really cool. The only thing that kind of took people aback about this first telling was the fact that they made his webs organic and they were coming out of his wrist instead of making him, you know, design his own web fluid and stuff, which is what came later in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man films. But this film, the way it kicked off, it was pretty cool. And it was really cool how they had his relationship with MJ, you know, because we had heard so much about, you know, the lore of how MJ, you know, she was supposed to be a young fox and everything. And a nerd like Peter could never get with her, and she liked the jocks and stuff in high school. And it turned out she in the film, in the Spider-Man films with Maguire and Kirsten Dunst, she like lived like right next door to him. And she really didn't pay no attention to the dude. You know, it was so cool because, again, like Stan Lee had written this film in the 60s. Peter Parker was a regular dude, you know, and it was like everything going on around him was the action and everything. It was like, but he was like the kind of person that'd get pushed out the way, stepped on, run over or whatever, because he was just a little nerd, you know. And they played that out pretty cool. And Tobey Maguire kind of captured that very well.
Absolutely. This was one of those films that's it's right on time. It's right on time. It hit. It hit at the perfect time. Like I said, Blade saved the MCU. People weren't really paying attention. Spider-Man came along, and Spider-Man 1 and 2, they hit very hard. They really did. They really did hit hard. Solid films. Spider-Man 3, you know what I mean? It was, you know, not so much. Tolerable, but not so much. Kind of jumped the shark with the dancing and things of that nature. But, you know, we'll talk about that. But this trilogy, I'll say it's solid. I will say it's solid, man. And this was an example of the people in charge catering to the people who who actually supported the characters, not fly by night, but they support the characters before these guys was born. You know, sidebar, I saw our brother Champion Hart said Ang Lee really messed up the Hulk. That was a fumble, and I agree with him. You know, just an example. Ang Lee was not educated on the Hulk. I guess he was just hot in these Hollywood streets, and they said, let's just grab anybody. And
yeah, and I think that's where they really made a mistake, because, you know, he was coming in off of the success of his film, The Brokeback Mountain.
Jesus Christ.
And I think he had done Crouching Tiger also.
Yeah. And let's just get him let's get him to do the Hulk. What?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And it's unfortunate because there were elements in that story that were a part of the Hulk's lore that no other incarnation has been able to keep. I'll give you like what I mean when I say that. It wasn't just the gamma rays and gamma radiation poisoning that metamorphosized Bruce Banner.
Right.
This film explored the fact that his dad was experimenting on him since he was a small child.
Right.
So there were things building up in him through his life. And then when his dad turned out that he was abusive and things of that nature,
Right.
You have to understand those triggering points. And even when he had that sit down conversation, and I know we're not talking about the Hulk, but I'm just going to say this part about it. When General Ross played wonderfully, I thought, by Sam Elliott, he made a heck of a General Ross to me. That's why when William Hurt passed away, I was like, why don't they bring him back? You know,
Right.
Elliott. But he said, suppressed emotions. You've buried it all. That was important, because when Bruce Banner gets angry, he don't get angry like we do. It's something else. And the gamma triggers it and takes it to that point where it becomes hulking out. And I thought that Ang Lee did well fleshing that part out. You know what I mean? Like the first time he changes, it's a process that he goes through.
Right.
It happens quicker later on, but that first process is like he's actually fighting it. What's going on? And then the Hulk comes out. But later, when he's talking to Betty, he was like,
I like it. I like it. Yeah. There was some nuggets in that film. Man. There was some nuggets in the film. But as a hardcore fan of the actual character, the picture, again, what held its own was that this was the new state-of-the-art CGI.
Right.
It was the new state-of-the-art CGI, and I said, okay, you know, but the movie was effed up, and I was trying to figure out when his father changed. Yeah. I said, what are they trying to say? Is he the absorbing man? Is that what they're doing?
That's what he was supposed to be, but they didn't give us enough of anything to make. They could have went better with that and left the doggone dogs out. You know?
Yeah.
He didn't need the dogs, but to have a battle with Absorbing Man, that would have been better.
Yeah. You know, but I mean, not to harp on that. I mean, we could do a whole show about.
We could save that.
Like that, how they rebounded, because I think they trashed that, and when they did the Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton, that's the official Hulk in the MCU.
Right.
You know? I mean, so you know, they got it right with that one. I ain't gonna hold you. They got that one right. But yeah, this Tobey Maguire trilogy, I liked it, man. And listen, I got annoyed. You remember when you started seeing pictures of the Green Goblin helmet? To me, it worried me. I said, man, what the hell is this? I was like, oh no. But you know what? Not only did the character really made the movie, but when they brought him back.
Dude, William Dafoe, man.
Wow.
Let me tell you something. Every bit of what you loved about Heath Ledger's Joker, William Dafoe was first with his Green Goblin, man. His damn Mr. Osborn was psycho, bro.
Yes.
And I loved that sinister laugh. Can you ever get that out your head once you hear it? That was like, you know, and remember that scene when they were all at the parade or whatever, and he coming in on that glider, and you heard the laughter first. He came, and next thing you know, them little cherry bombs, he was
oh man, that was great. That was great. That was great,
man. Hey, how about when they were at the house about to have Thanksgiving turkey and everything, and he stuck his finger in there to taste some of the turkey, and Aunt May slapped his hand, and he gave her that look like he wanted to kill her.
He's like, Shorty, I'll kill you. You know who I am? I fly around on this hang glider.
William Dafoe was crazy in that film, man. He was crazy.
Man,
I loved it. It was
a great film, man.
It was really good. It was, and he played so well off of Toby because Toby was the, he's the nerdy kid, right? Mm-hmm. But whatever that stuff was, he inhaled that turned him into the Goblin, man. He wasn't Mr. Osborn no more. He was sitting up there in his house, and he look in the mirror, and he's talking to himself in both voices. Oh, what are you doing?
He nailed it. He nailed it. And you know what? In the last Spider-Man film, did he not steal the film?
Dude, he came back.
He stole it. I said, "Oh my God, man!" He had
me fooled. I was like, "Oh, he done turned over a new leaf." Nope.
And he got busy, man. When he hit him through the floor, when he took Spider-Man through the floor, and he kept going down. Oh man, he got busy in that film, man. He got busy.
I remember them talking about it, the behind the scenes where they were interviewing, the cast and stuff. And William was like, it was so great to play this character again. He said, he was like, at first, I was just asking the directors, did they really want me to, go for it or whatever? And they was like, no, go for it. Be the Goblin. And he said he went into it. He said he was having fun.
That's
and everybody else on the set, including the other villains, were all just kind of looking at him like, this
and for those that don't know, that character, the Green Goblin, in the comic books, I know he's funny looking, but that character's really like that.
Yeah.
He's a lunatic. That character's really like that. And he's responsible for the death of Gwen.
Yeah.
In the book. And that was they didn't do it in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Right.
They did it in Garfield's Spider-Man. And I want to let y'all know back in the 70s, I forgot what year that was. It might have been the 80s. It was really big when they killed a character.
Yeah.
Gwen died, man, and he was responsible for that. And I didn't think they'd do that in the movies. I thought he would save her. No, she cracked her head. She ain't make it, man. I was like, ooh, what's going on here?
Yeah, and they made us think that he was going to do it in the Spider-Man film because remember they were on the bridge and he had MJ.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man had to make a decision. He was like, he let them both go.
Yeah.
And she was screaming as she was falling.
Oh man. They left something to be like something to think about. When Garfield's Spider-Man, when they were all talking and he said, listen, I lost a loved one. He was actually talking about Gwen. In Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man he went on a hiatus. He didn't do anything for a while until he saw the Rhino in the city, and I think he was gone for a couple of months. He said, I was at a point where I got real dark, and they were speculating that maybe Spider-Man went through a period that they didn't document in the movies where, he said, F the superhero stuff, I'm ripping these bastards apart. I don't know. But what's fun is there's a lot of open doors there, but it all comes down to the mother scunting writing.
Yeah.
They have to respect the people that are loyal to these franchises. They have to respect the people like us that actually grew up with these characters. We actually care. And
look at us now. There's 20 years past and we're talking about these films,
Yeah, man.
20 years and we're talking about them.
They absolutely have to. They're catering to these new fair weathered fans. They'll get you $1 for a good year or so, but they don't maintain an attention span. What they're doing, and it's not a joke when I say this. They're appealing to the the Prozac kids, the Ritalin kids, the kids with attention deficit disorder. They can't sit down. They're in the movie theater texting. You understand? They catering to those people. I'm old school, man. I actually care about storylines. Don't give me a BS storyline and think I'm gonna be bedazzled by a bunch of CGI. I'm past the CGI now.
What's that dragon film with Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale? I can't think of the title of it right now.
When the dragons came to life all over the world?
Yeah. Something of fire.
Ring. Oh man, something fire.
Rain of fire. Rain of fire.
Yeah.
You remember the scene? Because the dragons had destroyed basically their lives and everything. But you remember the scene when they were all sitting around the campfire, and he was reenacting Star Wars for the little kids.
Yes.
And he's like, "No, I am your father," and they were like, "Woo!" And it was like that was such a great part of that film because it was directed toward nerds, us. Yeah. It was like if you saw that film and that scene came along, it made you smile because it took you to a place of like, this is why we watch films. This is why we go to the movies and stuff like that. And within the film, they did something like that, you know. And I don't think like even now, many people would talk about it like what I'm mentioning about it, but it is true. It's like what I'm mentioning is that's what these cinematic experiences, mean to us, because this is what we go to the movies for.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, it takes more than just CGI. I mean, I was glamored by CGI when I first started seeing it, but once I got used to it, you got to give me storylines. All right. You got to give me, don't half-ass it. I can do a marathon stream about movies that have pissed me off in the last 2 decades. It's like this movie had all the potential in the world, but the storyline sucked. The actors really didn't care. They just showed up for a paycheck, and these things are tanking, man. I mean, y'all don't believe us? Watch this. Did we even talk about the Aquaman movie, the sequel that came out? Did we even talk about that?
I had no intention.
I didn't even know. I drove by a theater. I said, there's an Aquaman 2? How did I not know this? Poorly promoted, and I didn't care. You know, everyone's talking about the MCU right now. Stormy, did you see that Indian woman?
Echo?
No. The Indian woman that's in Marvel hired her. She's an Indian.
The one that they had hired to. They actually Disney hired her to be the director of the Ray film.
She said on a panel, "I am a feminist and I love pissing people off." And the audience started applauding. I said, oh my God, we're about to pay for something that we didn't do. We're about to be punished for something that we didn't even do. And I said, okay, there it is. And that's why the MCU looks all upside down. That's why I have no drive to watch this Echo series. None. There's no rush. They have sealed their own doom. And it's like now I feel that you've pimped my entertainment, and now you don't care about it. It's just going to be a failed project. You're going to blame the men for us not running to see it. Because, by the way, when we go see these movies, how many women you see as opposed to men? Okay, so it's us who grew up with it. Because when I was coming up, listen, it was only a few girls that found comic books interesting. The rest of them was like, it's stupid. I don't care. It's stupid. You like Spider-Man. That's stupid. It's like, F you, man. Get out of here. Matter of fact, in a few years, I will be effing you. And I'll still have my comic books. Stupid. But anyway. They don't care. We're the audience. And once it fails, All right, because there's a budget for this stuff. Once they don't make their money back, they're gonna say, all right, we're not gonna do it no more. We ain't make no money at it. No, you put these fools in charge. You didn't even know there was an audience for this. Stan Lee became a rock star overnight. Once things like Blade and Spider-Man took off, he became a rock star overnight. The man's gone, and then you put all this woke stuff in it, and now characters be, you know, I don't want YouTube to start shooting bullets into this stream, but y'all know what I'm talking about. It's ridiculous.
It's funny because when I just mentioned the opening of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, dude, it was like maybe a 80-20 ratio, men to females, men, you know, males to females. And the females who were there, they were either there because they were in love and support of their guy, or they were into it themselves too. And you know, that was cool. It's like when I started going to the comic conventions right around the early 2000s, and that's late for me because I should have been going sooner than that. But the early 2000s, when I first started going to the conventions, one of the things I recognized at the conventions is that for the women who do support comics and stuff, that's the one place that they felt like they could be and not be ostracized for it. You know, it's like, and a lot of them like the male characters, a lot of them like the female characters, but they were genuine in what their tastes were. It wasn't even about feminists. It was about just being a woman who had an appreciation.
That's right.
But if you want to speak more truth to it, Patty Jenkins's Wonder Woman film, it was made so well that you didn't look at her like, oh, that's a woman doing these heroic deeds. It was just a character played well, directed well, because Gal Gadot was not necessarily such a great actress, but she was well cast in that role and well directed because they found a way for her to become iconic in that role, kind of like Christopher Reeve did with Superman. So it's like, you know, so there is a direction that these characters and the people who portray them can be taken, you know, a direction where they could take them. One of the things that I wanted to mention about the Spider-Man trilogy was this. Listen, man, Spider-Man 2 with Alfred Molina playing Doc Ock. Is that spot on casting or what?
That was amazing, bro. That was amazing how they did that, man. That was amazing, man. I was so impressed with the casting. He nailed it. He actually brought, listen, I love when an actor can bring my character to life. Because, listen, I'm an artist, and call me corny, I don't care. When I read these comic books, in my mind, I hear their voice. I've always been like that. Whenever I read, in my mind, I had how Dr. Octopus would sound. In my mind, how Peter Parker would sound. In my mind, how the Hulk would sound. Silver Surfer sound like a damn poet. You understand? In my mind, right? So when they brought him along, I said, man, they nailed this. And you know how you know they nailed it? When they brought him back damn near 15 years later. Man, I went crazy, man. This was awesome, man. They nailed this, man. He should have gotten an award for how he played Dr. Octopus, man. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Really appreciated that, man.
I really enjoyed that, you know. Spider-Man 2 was a very well-made film, and they even snuck a huge sideline storyline element into the film that I didn't see coming, but it gave way to a scene that was kind of funny. Do you recall this? Now, I want to know if anybody in the chat knows what this side storyline is. And I'll give you guys a few minutes, a couple minutes rather, just to write it in the chat. What's the side storyline? Because it had a run in the comics, and to see J. Jonah Jameson with the Spider-Man suit on in his offices playing around, that was kind of hilarious. It was a great joke, but it goes a part of a story.
Yeah. This was and you see, you have to know the comic books to appreciate it to its full extent.
Okay, I won't twist their arms too long. There was a story in the Spider-Man comics called Spider-Man No More, and that cover of that issue had Peter Parker walking down a dark alley, and his Spider-Man suit was in a garbage can.
Garbage can, yep.
And they played that out in this film when he was going through some issues, and if you notice, like when he was web slinging and he couldn't spin his webs and stuff, and he was falling out the sky and stuff, and he just at one point had enough, and he was torn between, he wanted to have a relationship with MJ but couldn't because he had to keep his identity and this and that. It's like he was struggling, some adult themes there.
Yes.
And Peter in the film threw his Spider-Man costume in the garbage, and it shows up at J. Jonah Jameson's newsroom on his desk in a wrapped up brown bag or something. And you know what I like too? They downplayed this character very well, but listen, Bill Nunn, R.I.P. to him, because he came up through the Spike Lee films, and he was always pretty good, whatever he played in.
Right.
But he's sitting up there in the press room. Yeah, maybe somebody ought to ask Spider-Man. He would always look at Peter like he knew Peter.
Yeah, like he knew.
It's like he knew. But when the costume ended up on J. Jonah Jameson's desk, he was like, this criminal is like, what is this supposed to mean? And when wasn't nobody looking, he put the costume on. He was running around his office like this.
That was funny. He had, and for those that don't know, the character J. Jonah Jameson, the Daily Bugle, he basically was selling papers talking about Spider-Man. He became obsessed with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He became obsessed. He's a criminal. He's a criminal. He every day. To put it in a perspective in which we could relate to it more. We all on YouTube, and y'all know there's always that one channel that is talking about one thing or one athlete every day on day, and they that's their channel. And in the comic book, J. Jonah Jameson painted this narrative about what Spider-Man was. And he sold top dollar for his papers, and he became obsessed with him. And on a sidebar, that's why when they did Civil War in the comic book and Peter took off his mask, you see J. Jonah Jameson looking at it like, yo, this kid's been working with me for 30 damn years. He's Spider-Man. What the? Yo, bro, it was crazy. But my gosh. J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, it was a pretty good film, and just the little subtle lines of dialogue in there that were well done. Sam Raimi, he would take elements of the comics and find a way to put them in the films.
Right.
And that's what he did very well. Doc Ock was wonderfully written too. Wonderfully written.
Yeah, Doc Ock, that was an amazing casting for him, man. I really did.
But you see the quality. You had William Dafoe as the Goblin, then you had Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. They were going in a direction that was really, really outstanding.
You know what else they did? That people there was a cameo in the second Spider-Man film. There was a cameo. Remember the scene when MJ was running in her wedding dress in the park? The other Punisher was in the park with her. When she runs past him, he turns around and looks at the camera. So I saw that in the theater. I said, "Oh shoot, look. They were in the same, that was in the same universe."
Yeah, Thomas Jane.
And I was like, man, I think they might do a crossover. Back before they started redoing the Spider-Man. But they nailed those first two movies. The third film, when you saw it, how did you feel about Spider-Man 3?
Well, I didn't know a lot about Venom. But the way they introduced it, I had some issues because I felt like it was being rushed. There were too many characters in this third film, because not only did you have the symbiote, you also had Sandman.
Yeah.
And Sandman, his story alone required much more fleshing out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they didn't do that. And then they ended up making them like a dual villainous situation, and that didn't work well, because then you had Harry in there in a hobgoblin type situation, taking over from his dad, and he wanted it. He had it in for Spider-Man as well. So it's like, with three villains in the film, it just wasn't cool. To me, it seemed like they were trying to rush it that way because maybe they had the Sinister Six in their mind, on the horizon or whatever, like in maybe 2 or 3 more films we could do. But they blew, for lack of a better way of saying things, they blew their wad in this one. They had too much going on.
Right. They did.
And then they kind of pulled MJ in too many directions. She was bouncing back and forth between Harry and Peter, and that wasn't cool. Especially when you take your female lead character like that, and you make her do some of the things that they were asking the character to do in this film, it doesn't seem too cool. And I remember Kirsten Dunst was talking about that. She didn't like that either. And I think Zack Snyder, what he was doing with his Superman story was going down that track too, and that was going to be a bad thing, because he was going to have Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane have a relationship.
What?
Yeah, there was going to be something while Superman was away or dead or whatever, some kind of way that Bruce and Lois was going to get together. I don't think that's cool at all.
Bad idea. And what people don't realize is, in my opinion, right? This is my opinion. It makes the women weak. When a woman is allowing her heart to get pulled in all these directions.
Yeah.
It makes the woman look undecisive. It makes her look very weak. It makes her a pawn in a game. And it's distracting to the storyline. Because, why these heroes worried about their social life between them and an undecisive woman, where there's a supervillain about to blow the world up or something like that. I mean, we don't need that. And it makes the woman look mentally weak. And I never like that. Now, you don't throw an undecisive woman. That's just distracting. It's stupid. Yeah. It's stupid. So this thing with Spider-Man 3, I felt it was rushed. I felt that they had enough for a Spider-Man 4, which salute to No Smoke in the chat. He said that I think a Spider-Man 4 with Tobey is in production, something of that nature. But I think back then they had enough for a fourth movie. But I always said probably they felt that they were going to pull the plug on it at 3, and they said, you know what, F it, let's just throw everything in here. And they didn't need to do it. They didn't need to do it. It could have did.
Spider-Man 4 was supposed to have John Malkovich as the Vulture.
Right, I remember that. Yeah. I remember that.
They wanted to bring in Black Canary or something in there. They wanted to do something with that character. Not Black Canary, because Black Canary is DC. But it's Black something. It's the female chick with the white hair. I can't think of what her.
Black Cat.
Black Cat. There you go.
Cat, who was also a love interest to Peter Parker at first.
Right. Yeah. They wanted to have both of the Vulture and her in the film.
Yeah, I didn't like it. This Venom that they did in this one, totally off, totally wrong. What the symbiote did to Peter, it kind of did that in the book, but that Eddie Brock situation in the comic book, Eddie Brock, they didn't, man. They nailed Venom in the Venom movie, but Eddie Brock as a character, they didn't nail him because Eddie Brock went crazy. For those of you that don't know, the part that they did get right in Spider-Man 3, Eddie Brock was a reporter who was really good, but he lied about something. I don't remember really about what, and he got exposed and he was made a fool of, and he lost his living, and he went crazy. He lost his house and lost everything, and he blamed Spider-Man for this. And in his depression, you know, some people eat, some people drink. He started lifting weights excessively, and he got like super brolic. And when Spider-Man got rid of the symbiote, you know, he had to go to Reed Richards, and you know, they found out it was sensitive to sound, and he got it off of him. That part they got right. It was dying, but it was attracted to Eddie Brock because Eddie Brock had this hatred for Spider-Man. And somehow when the symbiote got on him, it put in his mind, hey, I know who Spider-Man is. It's Peter Parker. So then that's how he started harassing Peter, because he knew everything about his personal life. And it was a big old thing. And salute to Todd McFarlane, because that was his character he created. And salute to Eric Larson. Those are my two favorite Spider-Man artists. But they didn't really capture that, and you can't capture that in one film. Venom versus Spider-Man needed its own film. It needed its own film, and it needed to be like a time gap, like 4 years. Eddie Brock is off the grid, and then when he pops back up, he's Super Diesel with the symbiote on him. You know what I mean? They rushed it, so, and I didn't appreciate it. I really didn't appreciate it, man. You know, because it didn't do that character. Now, visually, it was a spectacle. They really captured the essence of Sandman, and that's hard. Yeah, but they could have left Venom out of it and just dedicated the whole film to Sandman and that version of Hobgoblin. They could have left Venom out of it. But Venom was such a popular character. It's like, how do we do Spider-Man films with no Venom in it? Well, if they did that version of Venom, they could have did without it. That was just what I'm saying.
And did you know that the gentleman that played Sandman in Spider-Man 3, he was not in Spider-Man No Way Home? That was all CGI.
That wasn't him?
That wasn't him. It wasn't him at all. He did not come to the set or nothing. That was all CGI. I think he gave them authorization to do it or something.
Wouldn't it have been cheaper just to have him show up?
No, you have to pay the guy.
Okay, but what's the budget on? Because I did notice he was always in sand form.
He was always in sand form. He wasn't never on the set of the film.
That's bugged out.
I think he did do the voiceover though. Maybe it was because he couldn't make it scheduling or something, but he wasn't in the film. That was all CGI for him.
That's crazy. But that
If
was
you
his
go
voice.
back and watch the movie, you can kind of tell, like, wait a minute, he the only guy that never, because Doc Ock was there, Goblin was there, he was the only one. Electro was there.
Did you like that Electro, Jamie Foxx?
A little bit more than in the Andrew Garfield film, yeah. I liked him a little more.
Yeah.
He tripped me out when he told Peter after he took his mask off, he was like, "Man, I thought you was black."
I mean, that was one of those things, even with the Andrew Garfield film, I'm like, come on, bro. Electro's a white guy. Why are they doing this? But I guess they pulled it off, man. I was like, oh man, they ain't gotta. Please stop doing this. Stop doing that. You're not doing us any favors by taking characters that I grew up watching as white people or Asians or black by switching their ethnicity or sex. Please stop doing this, y'all. Stop.
I was so glad when the Asian guy who they had hired to play Sentry pulled out.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Did you hear about that?
I heard. I didn't know the reasoning, but I heard he pulled out. That I did hear.
He pulled out of the project, where Sentry, because he's supposed to be in Captain America, New World Order or whatever, or the Thunderbirds or Thunderbolts. Yeah, he's supposed to be in there, but he pulled out.
Good.
I'm like, good. He Sentry is not supposed to be an Asian dude anyway.
White guy.
Come on, man.
Blonde-haired white guy. Stop this crap, man.
That Skarsgård guy that played Tarzan, that's Sentry.
That's Sentry.
Why is it so hard for these people? Look, you and I, we do this, we talk this stuff, and it come off the top of our head. That guy that played Tarzan, the Legend of Tarzan,
yes,
Skarsgård, that's Sentry. And do you know who he's the son of?
No.
He's the son of old boy in Thor, the professor.
Oh, that's his son?
That's his son.
Wow.
And the other Skarsgård that was in True Blood,
yeah,
with old girl from the X-Men movies,
yeah,
that's his other son.
Holy cow.
But when you see the Skarsgård names, it's the dad and the two sons.
I
found that out just a few years ago.
Do you remember a magazine called Wizard? It used to give you an update on comic books and toys.
I remember that comic. That magazine, yes.
I think I got the first issue somewhere in storage, the very first Wizard comic magazine. They used to have a section in there, because this was the 90s. They used to have a section in there saying, if they made a live action movie of this comic book, how would you cast it? And I remember two things that stood out. One of the things that stood out was they said, what if they made an X-Men movie? And they said, oh boy, from Star Trek, The Next Generation was clearly Professor X, whom, when they really did it, they went and got him. So I said, man, they nailed it. And when they did a Hulk casting, I remember telling, because me and my friends would have these conversations all the time, and they said they do a Hulk movie. Who'd play Rick Jones? Rick Jones, the character y'all haven't even seen in any Hulk films. I don't know how that's possible, but whatever.
Haven't put Rick Jones in at all, yeah.
That's ridiculous. So there's no Rick Jones. And what's interesting is back then, General Ross, someone did say Harrison Ford. I remember that. They said Harrison Ford would play a great General Ross. And you know who else they said? Doc Samson, another character that has not popped up yet. You know who I chose? And they picked it in that next month's Wizard, because they will tell you I believe, if I remember correctly, they'll tell you the month before. Write in or mail in, who would you pick for the casting of the new Superman movie or the new Hulk? And it was all like fantasy,
right?
And I remember I said Doc Samson should be played by Kevin Sorbo, the guy that played Hercules in the TV series. Just dye his hair green, that'd be perfect.
But I'll tell you something. In the Incredible Hulk, that guy, that was Doc Samson. He was going to become Doc Samson. That Betty's other boyfriend.
Yes.
Him. That's the guy that becomes Doc Samson. He was playing his that's the character he was playing.
Yeah, they so many options, man.
And I keep saying this, man. I don't know what they're messing around with, but Marvel needs to give the directing reins to Louis Leterrier once again. Let him direct something, because the Incredible Hulk was off the chain, bro. Listen, and if I told you that Fast X film, he's the director of that. Did you ever see it?
No, I didn't watch it yet. The last one that was out.
Yeah, Louis Leterrier, who directed The Incredible Hulk, directed that film. And there's this opening scene where they're trying to chase down this bomb in the Vatican. That action sequence is just as bit as exuberating and exciting as the Hulk and Blonsky confrontation on that college campus, where they're chasing him down and everything, and the music is playing. And
right,
that guy knows how to do high octane action. That's what these films are, comic books.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, that's what the Fast franchise has become. It didn't start out that way.
Right.
They've become, but a director like that, that's who needs to be doing these kind of films, because he can. Listen, do you know it was his idea to make the Hulk look like he looked in The Incredible Hulk? He said he wanted him to look like a uber male. He wanted him to have veins. He wanted him to have just, not a bodybuilder, but just an extension of a uber being. And that's why Hulk looked like he did in that film. It's just that the special effects got better, that by the time they did the Avengers film, they could put the actor who's playing the Hulk's face in more. They weren't able to capture Ed Norton's face into the Hulk's face, which it probably wouldn't have looked too good anyway, but they captured his expressions. All of those expressions that you see in The Incredible Hulk, those are Ed Norton's, expressions. But I'm sorry, Mark Ruffalo just looks like the Hulk anyway. Even if you just painted his face green, he would look like the Hulk. He's got that face.
Yeah, they I could live with it, man. I like Ed Norton because Ed Norton reminds me more of a Bruce Banner, because he's a small Pee-wee kind of guy who just morphs into this monster. So I was pretty upset when they
and I like the element that he brought. He rewrote like more than 50% of that film. When they hired him to do the movie, he said, I'll do this, but I got to rewrite the script a little bit. And he rewrote like a little more than 50% of the film. And then they cut a tremendous portion of his film. If you see the Blu-ray, the deleted scenes that they cut out are all on the Blu-ray, and it's mostly exposition. Like, he's got this great scene where he's sitting there talking to Doc Samson about, I got anger problems and stuff. And he's like, oh, everybody got them. He's like, no, not like this. And they're having this conversation. And then they have another scene where he's like going to the mountains to try to commit, delete himself.
Yeah.
And then there's some more exposition. It's mostly exposition scenes telling you more about Bruce Banner, and it works. Why they cut it out the film, I don't know. They probably think it slowed the film down because Leterrier is a fast-paced director with his action and stuff. But to me, I always watched those scenes because I thought they were well done. And Ed Norton's a damn good actor, man. It's like when you got someone of quality, let them do what they do. You know what I mean? And that, because he was the one that talked about how Banner should start learning how to get a handle on changing. And if you notice, the film ends with him practicing changing, and he smiles when his eyes turn green.
Yeah, I figured it out.
Yeah, it's
he had figured it out. Yeah. That fun film, man. But I felt, getting back to Spider-Man, I felt it was rushed, but I couldn't help but the see crossovers happening then. Like how you said you saw the Blade film, and you said, man, the Spider-Man movie's coming.
Yeah.
And then I believe it was Spider-Man 2, they advertised Ang Lee's Hulk before Spider-Man came on. The whole theater went crazy. So I'm like, yo, there's a crossover coming. It's coming. So I'm like, all right, Blade, Spider-Man, the villains in Spider-Man, and now they have the Hulk. Who's going to be in the Hulk film? And the Punisher, because at the end of the film, Mary J's running through the thing, and you see the Punisher. You're like, oh man. So we said then they're building a universe here, and I got excited. And the Spider-Man 3 was rushed. Like that song and dance he did with the piano, and I was like, what are they doing?
You know who would have made a good Wolverine? Old boy who was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That actor, the little short, stocky dude. I can't think of his name right now. But he was
the guy that played the detective.
Yeah,
Private Eye.
Yeah,
you like him?
He would have made a good Wolverine. As a younger man. He was older. But someone like that, because Wolverine ain't a big dude. He's a little guy. He's like 5'3" or something.
Yeah, he's short, man. You know who I had casted as Wolverine, and he'd have totally pulled it off had he not lost his mind and deleted himself and his family. The wrestler Chris Benoit, because he's also. You ever seen this guy? Stormy, you ever seen?
I remember him. I remember
the Canadian crippler. He was Canadian. He wasn't even 6 feet tall. He had muscles everywhere. And he was really like Canadian. He looked like Wolverine. And everyone said, yo, they do an X-Men film, he gotta be Wolverine. And this fool lost his mind and lost his life. It was like ridiculous, man. But everybody was saying this Wolverine right here, totally. He could pull it off. I'm
gonna tell you something. The one who could do it now will be that young man that played Harry Potter. He's a good enough actor. He would have to hit the gym. But he's got the size and the acting chops. I heard there's a possibility that he may be playing a Wolverine. What do they call it? Variant in one Deadpool? Of the crossover films. Yeah, for the multiverse. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
In Deadpool. Yeah.
Wow. I'm concerned about that Deadpool movie now.
Oh yeah, Disney is trying to ruin it, man. Ryan Reynolds is pissed off. They have made him. He probably don't. Once he's done with Deadpool, he probably don't want to do any of these kind of films ever again because of what Disney has tried to do to him. They have literally, and I won't say pause. They have literally tried to shove down his throat this DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion, into his film. When he signed on to do it originally with Kevin Feige, DEI was not even a freaking thing. But they have changed lanes on him in the midst of, he's just about done with the film. And they tried to shove all of this in his third act of his movie, and he has totally fought them off with this. He's even said that he's not going to do any promotion for this film. So it's like he's not going to go on the talk show circuits and stuff. And he's not doing it. He's not.
And this is after he got what's his name to come out who said he wasn't doing Wolverine anymore.
Yeah.
After he got him in it.
Listen, they done pissed Hugh Jackman off too. Hugh Jackman had 3 scenes specifically written in this film that they've cut all 3 scenes. Oh, it was one of the major reasons why he got in shape again to play the character, because it's a recreation of the X-Men Apocalypse scene. Remember the Wolverine cameo in there when he steps out of the machine and he got
Weapon X. When he was Weapon X. Yeah.
That Ryan Reynolds had wrote a scene in the film where he's supposed to be, that's a takeoff of that, but just from a different universe. So he's like violently killing those soldiers and everything, totally R-rated, which is okay because Deadpool is supposed to be R-rated. But that Bob Iger guy from Sony, no, we can't have that. It's too much. So he had them cut that out. Then it's supposed to be a World War I and a World War II scene that tracks Wolverine through the years, like when he was in the movie with Liev Schreiber, when they were in the war and stuff. They're supposed to have another scene reenacting that. Liev Schreiber was supposed to be in the movie too. Bob Iger said no. These people at Disney, man, but they want to show you plenty of homosexuality and the P-files and all of that kind of stuff, huh? But they can't show you these characters doing what they really did in the comics.
Listen,
I'm going to when Deadpool comes out, I'm going to see it to support Ryan Reynolds. I am not going to see it to support Marvel. I'm going to see it to support Ryan Reynolds, and that's going to be it. I don't care if they brought Robert Downey Jr. back, Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans, all that, which they talking about trying to do just to suck the people back in because people have turned their backs on Marvel. It ain't gonna work for me. I got all the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man films and the Chris Evans Captain America films and Scarlett being in those movies with them, and I'm fine. I'm fine with all of that.
You know what? They just need to recast all the Marvel characters, make them all female or gay, and just go ahead with it. Just do it. Just do it. So we ain't got to funk around with this anymore, because we know that's what you want to do. You hired this Indian lady who likes to piss off the establishment. In newsflash, there ain't no establishment. These characters are already around. They've been around since before she was born. Just leave it alone and do the goddamn work. You ain't got to take this person and make them gay. When I heard they want to make Reed Richards Indian, man, I went and hit the bag. I did 2 rounds on the heavy bag. I said, you don't do that.
And they still hired this guy, Pedro, who was on The Mandalorian, and that's not Reed Richards either. That is not Reed Richards. I told you my perfect casting for Reed Richards. Do you remember the brother that played the soldier in the original Transformers?
Yeah.
That guy right there. That's your Reed Richards, because he's older now. He played in The Mandalorian. Remember, he played that character that was like in the woods and when they had to shoot out. He's an older guy now, but that's perfect Reed Richards right there. And he's a good actor.
You know the stuff that you know the stuff. This is what I'm talking about, y'all. Flash Thompson is an instrumental character in the early Spider-Man. You know, when he was coming up, Spider-Man as a teenager. The fact that they name an Indian named Flash Thompson. Name one. Name a Trini. You know the Indians that are Trinidadian or Guyanese. Name anyone that you know named Flash Thompson. There might be a Thompson that's Trinidadian, but come on, guys.
Listen,
why would you do that?
I ain't got nothing against the young girl that they put in there to be Peter Parker's girlfriend, but MJ is not a mixed girl. She's a redhead, Caucasian
white
female.
woman. She's a white woman.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah. and they
Bottom
put
line.
that girl in there, made her MJ. They strung you along the whole thing. Oh, that's not really
Oh
MJ.
my
The
God.
MJ is she was playing MJ the whole damn time.
Yo, pull up Champion Heart some last comment, because I have something to add to that. He's not lying. Let me tell you how I know that this, I didn't hear about this, but let me tell you why I don't put this past what he's saying. Did you know, Stormy, because I know it's been a while since you've read the comic as I haven't. You know what I didn't know? They made Hercules in the comic book, from what I was told. I didn't do any research, but it just deflated me so much. Did you know, in this woke culture, Hercules has gone full Greek? What do I mean by that?
You don't have to say anymore.
Right. They made him B.I. in the book, in the comic book. And I'm like, why do we need to know that?
Well, you should already know that they were heading that direction because of what they did with Russell Crowe's character in Thor: Love and Thunder. Having orgies and all of that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, come on. That has no place in our comic books.
We didn't ask for it.
We didn't ask
for it. There was nobody saying, "Hey, man, where the?"
But they don't want to show Wolverine killing soldiers in the war. Stuff that really happened.
Nazis at that.
Yeah. So they don't want to show you that, but they want to show you Hercules champed up with another man. Come on, man. No.
This dude told me that in the book. He said, "Oh, you didn't know?" I said, "I haven't bought a comic book in so long." He says, "Bro, in the book, he's laid up with girls and you see men there too." I said, "Stop, bro. Stop. I'm done. I'm done, man. This is Hercules. I'm done, bro. I'm done." Remember, we was kind of hyped and we said, "Yo, man, this could be leading up to a crossover with Marvel and the DC universe. When they talking about these universes collapsing and stuff, we might see, Justice League versus Avengers / X-Men. Now I don't care. You guys have hijacked." Okay, you see where the show's going?
Yep.
I'm good, man.
Let's get ready to get out, bro. It's been another slice to be able to sit up and talk about the original Spider-Man trilogy, kicking off things. We can revisit another trilogy in the future, but I just thought this one would be cool. We had to delay it a couple of weeks for you guys because we had, life happens, but at the same time, we always try to bring you, some great topics with Nerds on Culture. Your final thoughts, man.
Overall, with the exception of the third movie and its little mishaps, the third movie's tolerable. I'm not gonna say it's horrible. It just had its things because I'm a purist, and when I've read these comics growing up, I just don't like to see them, get taken out of their way, the way I'm used to seeing it, But I like and recommend the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man box set. Pick it up, go watch the films, and F you Disney, F you with a flair. Seriously.
And besides the third Spider-Man film, listen, it's still better than a lot of the stuff that they trying to put out today.
Yes,
it really is.
I'll say that. Yes. So salute to you, Stormy. Another slam dunk, and we'll be back here next Monday. For real.
Yeah. With that being said, appreciate everybody that came out, show love and support in there. We saw your comments in the chat, but we were really cooking this evening. And hit that like button on the way out if you didn't on the way in. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. And we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Yes, sir.